Viva student power, viva!
Viva!
Viva student power, viva!
Viva!
Viva umbrella, viva!
Viva!
I want to speak softly. I want to speak softly because I want to speak to your heart. Let me recognize each and every one of you individually and personally and give you a hug from where I stand. Because I love you. I acknowledge your presence here. I'm honored to be in your midst. And I'm inspired by your boundless energy, your youthfulness and your vitality. I am truly happy to be here with you this afternoon. Let me gratefully acknowledge the emerging leadership, recognize your calming SRC president and remind him or inform him that in my first year at this university I contested the SRC. It was the first time the first year students did that. And I won. In my fourth year, I became SRC president. And I remember doing some case at the High Court after I completed, long left the university. I was representing an SRC president who had been suspended and was on the verge of being expelled. And I had the privilege to appear before a judge who himself was a former SRC president. And I told the lawyer that was representing the university then, said to him, "You have lost this case. Because I'm a former SRC president, representing a current SRC president, before another former SRC president." And they lost. He was reinstated, he was able to write his examination, and he passed. His name is Richard Kumweka.
Viva!
Let me acknowledge your incoming Member of Parliament, Dr. Pengna, and thank him for stepping up, picking up the baton, and being a force of good. Thank you so very much. I have acknowledged all of you, and I've told you how much I love you. I saw an old friend of mine lurking somewhere in the shadows. I want to greet him as well, a special guest. He's a medical doctor. He's also a professor of medicine from this country. He's an expert from Botswana, flying his intellectual trade in the Caribbean. Dr. Stephen. Brilliant medical professional. an intellectual gladiator in his own right. I thank him. I think it was James Russell Lowell who said, and I quote, "They are slaves who fear to speak for the fallen and the weak. They are slaves who will not choose hatred, scoffing, and abuse, rather than in silence shrink from the truth they needs must think. They are slaves who dare not be in the right with two or three." James Russell Lowell. Let me at this point recognize the young Turk, Nolan Gomez, whom you know very well. Explosive, fiery, militant as they come, representing that spirit of militancy that you all must display and enact. You can choose to be a slave and fear to speak for the fallen and the weak. Or you can choose, as Tolstoy says, to squeeze the slave out of you ounce by ounce. And so we are here today to squeeze out of our essence every ounce of slavery. The better for us to then be exemplars, be flag bearers, bearers of the flame of change and the future we so desperately yearn for. And so I'm going to speak to you from the vantage point of a former lecturer of law at this university. And I left my teaching in 2003. That's when I stopped teaching law, after I taught it for 10 years. Yeah. So let me remind myself of those days when I was a lecturer and speak to you about two critical questions that I want us to wrestle with. I want you to think with me. Because they then lay the foundation for the pointed submissions I will then make and the exhortations that I'll present to you. The first philosophical question that we must deal with is the question of context and contextuality. We need to take a position about the habitual settings of our actions, the institutions that we relate with, the society that we find ourselves in, the various groups and formations to which we belong or with which we associate ourselves. We need to interrogate these and take a position about them, about our society, and in the ultimate instance about ourselves. That is the question of context and contextuality. You live in a country that calls itself a democracy. You need to then interrogate the type of democracy that it purports to be, and ultimately draw a conclusion about whether it is in fact a democracy or it is a fake democracy. Because a fake only sells where there is demand for the genuine article. We have a genuine demand for democracy. So we are being sold a fake in the name of democracy. We need to interrogate, we need to take a position on this democracy that we are presented with. And the reason we need to do this is we then must proffer concrete suggestions for changing the current reality. This is a democracy where the judiciary is captured and compromised, where mediocrity is institutionalized in the quality of the judges that you have, mediocre in the extreme and most embarrassing manner. And we can establish, because we can look at the track record of each and every one of them, and we can point out the foibles and failings of each, and demonstrate that when you have a judiciary led by this kind of individuals, then you have a fake democracy masquerading as a genuine democracy. So we need to take a position on these institutions. And that is why the lawyers recently elected to boycott the opening of the legal year to make a potent statement about the deplorable conditions of the current judiciary. But of course they were talking to an impervious lot whose minds are closed to any truth. But we continue to speak the truth to them. Context and contextual. Second fundamental question that you need to engage is the question of solidarity. What do you want to do about these situations that you find ourselves? Do you want to change it? And if the answer to that question is yes, then you need to establish affinities, links, and connections with others who share the same ideals and who hold on to the same vision. That is the question of solidarity, the solidarity. Who else is part of this vision? Find them, link up with them, create these affinities of hope from these links of suffering. When you reach that level, you are on your way to effecting change, because you are then called to action. You join forces with others. You advocate. You mobilize. And you go out in numbers. You register to vote. You bring others to register. You defend the integrity of the vote. Defend it with your life if you have to. And in this way, you can then effect regime change. This is critical. You folks have been told about something called a knowledge economy by somebody who doesn't know what knowledge is. Yes. Much less he even remotely know what the knowledge economy is about. He reads some laundered speeches written for him. Doesn't understand what he's talking about. And so we know that when you take a clown and put it in the palace, the clown does not become king. Instead, the palace becomes a circus. That is what we have today. We have taken an intellectual midget, a clown, and given him the loftiest position of president of this republic. And this republic has now turned into a circus, a laughing stock, where we benchmark against the worst performers on the continent. You want to know how to run elections? You go to Zimbabwe. kidding me? You want to know how to run a country, you want to go and benchmark against Zimbabwe, Nanga. Something seriously wrong with a person who behaves like that. But the West Africans have a saying. They say, whom the gods want to destroy, they first make man. So we have mad people here, and their destruction is therefore imminent. Labor student power, please.
Viva!
The knowledge economy is about you. The knowledge economy makes knowledge the fundamental factor of production. The knowledge economy is a digital economy. And the knowledge economy prioritizes virtualization. And on the supply side of the equation, the knowledge economy requires an investment in the generation, production, and dissemination of knowledge. And if we agree that we must move in the direction of the knowledge economy, then we must place the learner, the student, front and center in our vision. We must invest in you. We must invest in your education. Which is why it is critical for us in the umbrella of democratic change, first, to ensure that the quality of your education is world class. To ensure that your conditions, your welfare as students is world class. So that you, the learners, become the focal point of any budget, of any economic intervention. And there's a stark contrast with the current regime. You can tell that they don't take you seriously at all. You can tell by the conditions in which you study, the allowances, if those count for allowances at all, that they give you. It's utter disrespect, it's contempt. And so that is why in the lead up to 2019, we presented a figure of 2,500 as the student allowance. It's 5 years since. And we naturally must re-examine the figure together with you. And so you tell me now, off the cuff, how much should it be? 3,000. It was 2,500 5 years ago. We need to revise it upward now. And so you must make an input into how much it should be, because it's about you. Viva student power, please.
Viva!
Viva student power, please.
Viva!
The knowledge economy impels us to invest and invest massively in you. And that investment must, of necessity, entail your allowances,
2.5.
your welfare, the conditions in which you learn, the quality of those who impart the learning to you, the quality of the education itself. Because the knowledge economy requires something beyond just reading books. It requires something beyond being able to reproduce what you read in a book. The knowledge economy requires you to be able to generate ideas yourself, to generate knowledge yourself. The knowledge economy impels creativity, It calls for innovation. It calls for the generation of new knowledge. This is what the knowledge economy is about. And this knowledge economy, crisply summarized, is about imagination. Any product or service that you see or interact with is in fact the materialization of an idea, of an imagination. So your education must make you imaginative, creative. You must be able to generate knowledge. Knowledge in song, knowledge in poetry, knowledge in every facet of human endeavor. You must generate knowledge. And that requires you to have imagination. And my former professor of law at Harvard Law School defined for me what imagination was. Roberto Anga said, imagination is that aspect of the mind that is neither modular nor formulaic, that has power to recombine everything with everything else, that advances by defying its own methods and presuppositions. The ability to combine everything with everything else, mathematicians call it recursive infinity. Poets call it negative capability. To blend learnings, knowledge, experiences to generate higher learning, better experiences, deeper knowledge. This is what the knowledge economy is about. And we must all agree that we have to be part of this knowledge economy, which is why investing in you is a precondition. It is the conditio sine qua non. We cannot advance into the knowledge economy if we do not put massive outlays of investment into your education, into your training, into your preparation. And so the issue of your allowance is but a small part of what we should do as a nation. It is not negotiable. It is not something you must beg for. It is an obligation on the state. It is a fundamental human right for you to be taken care of as you learn and develop as part of this society, so that you take your rightful place in this fourth industrial revolution. This is what it's about. And the umbrella for democratic change is clear. It is unequivocal in its commitment to ensuring that you get the best education. And when you've got this education, you should then be able to create from the ideas from your imagination. You'll create services and products that enable you to earn a decent living. You become an employer, first of yourself and of others. Some of you will be creatives. The South Africans have taken the whole world by storm. On a simple concept of some music they call amapiano. Who would have imagined? And the whole world is now dancing to this. The source and origin, South Africa. Where in South Africa? In the bottom strata of society amongst creatives. Tupac, that created, not sure he went fine his education. But he was a wordsmith whose rendition of the spoken word, whose word bombs inspire us today. No professor of the English language could match him in the way he played around with words. That's why he is able to say, I'm looking for a black Jesus. One who hurts like I hurt. One who drinks like I drink. One who smokes like I smoke. A saint I can pray for in the ghetto. That's too far. He's able to say they got no money for, but they got money for God. That's art. That's creativity of the highest level. He was a craftsman of the world. You want to see many emerge from amongst you. You want to see you rise to the highest levels and standards in the world, not just in this country. And so for you to reach there, you need to be inspired by other visionaries. You need leaders who are learned themselves. Leaders who can stand up with the best in the world and consider them no more than their equals. Not these intellectual midgets that we have masquerading as leaders. And I say this with the greatest respect and no trepidation. I don't mean any disrespect, I'm just stating it. And so it is important for us to know where we are going. It is important for us to remain firm in our commitment to effective change in our lifetime, in your lifetime. You have young leaders who are emerging, folks who are stepping up to the plate, folks who have the courage and the conviction to identify themselves with something bigger and better than who and what they are. Motivated by love, 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 love. I told you I love. And what I meant by that was, I have a supreme, enduring, and abiding commitment to your well-being. That's the love I'm talking about. That abiding commitment to the well-being of others. In solidarity with them. Holding on to these links of suffering. These affinities of hope. Laying present realities open for future possibilities. That's hope. Hope says, I don't care what happens to me. I'm going to do this because it's the right thing to do. That's why I'm elected to do what I'm doing. I don't care who says what. I don't care what happens. Nelson Mandela didn't care what happened to him. He could actually have been killed. And at the last moment, he told his lawyers, the whole team of eminent advocates and lawyers, he said, this is about where it ends for you guys. From here on, I'll take it. And he stood before the judge and told the judge straight up, these are ideals for which I live, but there are also ideals for which I am prepared to die. Are you prepared to die for some ideal, for some vision? Are you in this enduring commitment to the welfare of others, their well-being? Are you prepared to die for them? This is what it's about. And when we all have that conviction, When we enact, we display, we live it. We no longer listen to sermons preached. We want to see sermons lived. This is what it is. And so I'm here to encourage you, to tell you, there's going to be a change of government in your place. Make no mistake. Forget the self-adulation, self-praise that is going on at the highest echelons of power. That's all they can do. You see a president strutting like a peacock. When he does that, tell him, yes, you are strutting like a peacock. And peacocks strut because they can fly. And we rise, we soar like eagles. That's what we are. Viva student power. Viva! Viva student power. Viva! We will begin a series of very intense campaigns going forward. I will be a regular here to interact with you. Anyone who is not registered must prepare himself or herself to be the very first when the next cycle of registration is called. And when you go to register, if you haven't registered already, take at least 10 young people with you. If you've already registered, bring 10 more young people with you to register. The average age, the median age in this country is 25. So the voter is very, very young. And the young voters comprise 60% of the population. So if there's going to be a change of government in this country, you are the people who are going to effect that change. Nobody else. And so you must take this responsibility seriously. Show up, as Rihanna said. Pull up. Don't stay behind the curtains. Pull up. Present yourself at the registration point. Present yourself in the voting booth and vote UDC. After you vote, that fateful day in October when you vote, here's what you must expect when the outcome is announced and the UDC, as it will, becomes government. Whatever figure we would have agreed, and the baseline is 2.5, it will not go any lower. It will go up. Whatever figure we would have settled for and we go into the elections with, that figure will not be negotiable. It will not be susceptible to a revision downward. There will be no excuse given. That amount that we will all settle and agree on will be paid as soon as the UDC government takes it. So it will not require people to sit in parliament and debate. No, it is high policy. It is a commitment solemnly made to the students, and you will be witnesses to its enforcement and implementation. So do you want a decent student allowance? Yes. Then you will vote for this. Yes. If you want to perpetuate your oppression, your denigration, your abuse, then you will vote to the ruling party. You will associate yourself with them. And here's what they also try and do. They will come and try and speak talk. Near akin to a person who plunges a knife 9 inches deep into you and then pulls it 2 inches out and expects you to praise him or her. That's what this ruling party does. That's what these sycophants, self-professed, proud to be sycophants, that's what they do. And so, you will vote properly, you will vote wisely, you will vote umbrella for democratic change. Your member of parliament will be Dr. Benyomuta. Yes. And you will hold him accountable. He will make sure that that allowance that we've agreed on is paid and paid promptly. In the digital economy, there are no slip-ups. To just press enter. What is so difficult about it? What is the problem? You know the number of students. They are at the University of Botswana. They get this amount as their allowance. By this day, why don't you just press the damn enter button? What is the problem with this? We simply press enter to create a system in this day and age of the knowledge economy of the fourth industrial revolution. You can't have a software simply dedicated to ensuring that student allowances are paid promptly. You can't do it. And you think you are running a country. This is a circus. But you know what is underpinning this? It is contempt and disrespect for you and your well-being. A person who doesn't care about you, doesn't care whether you've eaten, whether you have money for transport, doesn't care what happens to you, will behave like this. And so from time to time you have to storm the office of DTF because they haven't paid your allowances. That won't happen under a UDC government. We press enter.
Oh, yes!
Because we take you very seriously. Because we appreciate you as the future of this country. So we will press enter at the appropriate time. And your allowances will credit your account. And there will be absolutely no seamless operation. And we will make sure you have all you need. Books, high-speed internet. You see. No buffering. High-speed, accessible, affordable, even subsidized if we have to, internet for students. How can you learn in this day and age without access to internet? What kind of learning do these folks think you have to undertake? It's an embarrassment. So, folks, you have no choice, it seems to me. You have no choice. If you value yourself, if you take yourself seriously, if you believe you are worthy, you will vote umbrella for democratic change. There's no two ways about it. And there's no other organization like it. You are either BDP or UDC. There's no mid-type. Anybody who's not UDC is by default BDP. Because the struggle is to effect regime change. And regime change, surveys have shown, all the way from 2014 to date, that the only vehicle in this country for effecting regime change is the umbrella for democratic change. So anybody who's not in the umbrella for democratic change is not about regime change, it's about something else. Perpetuating the oppression carried out by this ruling regime. And so I took you through these to demonstrate to you the truthfulness of what that ancient scholar Socrates said many years back. Line 38a, Plato's Apology, says the unexamined life is not worth living. Examine your life. Shine the spotlight on yourself and your circumstances. And when you do, you will then agree with another revolutionary, Malcolm X, speaking from 125th Street, where it intersects with 7th Avenue in Harlem, New York. He says, when Socrates says the unexamined life is not worth living, Malcolm X says the examined life is painful. It is painful when you see what people go through. It is painful when people sit on their laurels and allow themselves to be oppressed. And so I tell you today, echoing Martin Luther King, folks can't drive your van unless your van is dead. You've got to straighten up your backs. You've got to stand up straight, look oppression in the face, and tell it, your time is up. It's time for change. We are effecting change in Botswana. We are bringing in a new government. We are bringing in the umbrella for democratic change. And the president of the umbrella for democratic change, when he takes over at the State House in October, will not be referred to as His Excellency. Don't call me. Just call me Comrade. I don't know what this nonsense of His Excellency means. People who have insecurities, lacking in self-confidence, intellectual mediums want to call their excellencies, because that's all we have. And that is why they compel institutions to confer them with honorary doctoral degrees, and they call themselves doctors. You're a doctor. He's a doctor. If you go into the libraries, you'll find some theses that he wrote. If you go to Harvard Law School, you'll find my master's thesis on the democratic ethics pathway. I don't want to be called a doctor unless I study for it and I attain it by course of study. Intellectual mediums want to be called doctors. And in the same word, a person who gets conferred a doctoral degree honoris causa does not call himself a doctor. It's only here. Strange. You didn't study for this. You want to be called a doctor. They want to stand side by side with him and be called doctors. What kind of doctor? Then we have to ask when you say, I'm a doctor.
Which kind?
You say, what kind? What kind? Did you study?
No.
The answer is no. You tell you straight up. You're not a doctor. You just have to pretend. Hey. So, you study secure in the knowledge that the umbrella for democratic change has your back. Study secure in the understanding that the umbrella for democratic change will give you a proper student allowance.
The blood Jesus.
Study secure in the knowledge that the government that comes in October is your government. It will be run by you. You will be able to send your thoughts, send your ideas, or even march to the State House if you want. And when you get to the gates, you must be able to say like that old woman did at the gates of the Kremlin in 1917, after government change. An old woman went up to the gates of the Kremlin and said, I want to talk to Lenin, who was the president of Russia. The guards at the gate pointed guns at the old woman. So you can't see him, he's the president. The old woman said, I do not know him. I have not come here for it. I don't care about him. I want to see Lenin. And she wouldn't leave. And in frustration, they called the inner chamber and spoke to Vladimir Ilyich Ulyanov, otherwise known as Lenin. He said to him, there's an old woman here giving us grief. If she persists, we will shoot her. She says she wants to see you. V.I. Lenin said, bring her to me. It is me she wants to see. The old woman was ushered in, met Lenin and asked, are you Lenin? He said, yes, I am. Oh, Lenin, my child, I have run out of paraffin in my house. I come to ask you for help. Lenin said to his staffer, give this woman paraffin, give her any other thing she wants. You are going to come to the State House after October. I can assure you that you are going to walk or whatever you do, you're going to come to the gates of the State House and you are going to say, I want to see Comrade Boko, not His Excellency. You will say, I want to see my Comrade Boko. And when they bring you to me, here's what you're going to say. Comrade Boko, thank you so much. Look at me. I'm glowing. That's what you will say. You will say, look at me. I'm full of life, vigor, and vitality. Thank you so much for the allowance. Thank you so much for the change, the transformation that we have effected in this country. Thank you so much. I just came here to say thank you. I think you'll do that before the end of this year. By December, you will come. You will be happy. You will not be able to contain your joy, your elation. You will come.
Yes.
And I will welcome you and say, let's keep transforming the country. Viva student power.
Viva!
Viva student power.
Viva!
Thank you. Thank you so very much.